There's a danger in keeping people in your life who no longer deserve to be there. The longer you hold on to someone who walked away, the more you convince yourself they're still a part of you. But here's the truth: he was never your whole life, he was just a moment in it, and the only reason he still feels so present is because you keep carrying him with you, deleting him like he was never part of you. Isn't about pretending the relationship didn't happen, it's about taking back control of your mind, your heart, and your energy, because when someone no longer adds to your life, their memory has no right to drain it. The power is in your hands to cut the cord, clear the space, and reclaim the person you were always meant to be. When a relationship ends, it's easy to feel like a piece of you has been ripped away. You tell yourself things like, "He was part of me," or "I don't know who I am without him." That feeling is real, but it's also built on an illusion. The truth is, he was never part of you. He was part of your experience. He was someone you shared time with, but he was not the fabric of your identity. And yet, when we mistake someone's role in our lives for being an extension of ourselves, we cling to the idea that losing them means losing ourselves. This is where the healing gets stuck, because you're not just letting go of a person. You think you're letting go of who you are. But the reality is, who you are has always been separate, intact, and whole, no matter who came and went. The illusion of attachment is powerful because love has a way of blurring lines. When you care deeply for someone, your routines intertwine, your conversations shape your days, and your emotions get tied to their presence. It feels like your life is fused with theirs, so when it's gone, the brain tricks you into believing that you're incomplete. But what's really happening is withdrawal. You became accustomed to him filling a space in your day, your mind, and your emotions. The emptiness that follows isn't proof he was part of you. It's proof you built a habit around him. Habits can be changed, and so can the way you perceive him. To cut the illusion of attachment, you have to start by separating the person from the meaning you've given them. He was not your source of worth. He was someone you gave love to. He was not your identity. He was someone you chose to share time with. The difference is crucial because when you see him for what he was, a person, flawed and limited like anyone else, you stop romanticizing him as something bigger than life. The pedestal comes down, and with it, the belief that losing him means losing yourself. Think of it this way: when you read a book you love, the story can move you, change your perspective, even stay in your heart long after you finish. But you don't confuse that book with being part of your body. You don't carry it with you forever. You close it, put it back on the shelf, and let it be what it was, a chapter in your experience. Relationships are the same. They can shape us, but they don't define us. They're part of our journey, not our essence. When you stop saying, "He was part of me," and start saying, "He was part of my past," you reclaim your power. That shift in language matters because words shape thoughts and thoughts shape feelings. The more you affirm that he is not a part of you, the more your brain begins to release its grip on him. You see the truth. You were whole before him, you're whole without him, and you'll remain whole long after his memory fades. This is where detachment becomes possible. It's not about denying what you felt or pretending the relationship didn't matter. It's about putting it in its rightful place. It mattered then, but it does not matter now. It shaped who you are, but it does not own who you are. When you cut the illusion of attachment, you stop dragging his ghost into your present. You stop giving him credit for your happiness or blame for your sadness. You take full ownership of both because they were always yours to begin with. And here's the most liberating part. Once you see him as someone outside of you, you realize he never had the power to complete you, and therefore he can't have the power to break you. His presence didn't define your identity, so his absence can't destroy it. He was never part of you. He was simply someone you experienced, and now the experience is over. The sooner you cut that illusion, the sooner you remember the truth, that you are still here, still whole, still you, untouched at your core. When you go through a breakup, it can feel like you've lost not just the relationship, but yourself. You start questioning who you are without him. You catch yourself thinking, what do I even like anymore? What do I want? What makes me happy? And that's because so much of your energy was wrapped around him. His preferences, his moods, his validation. You adjusted yourself to fit the relationship, sometimes without even realizing it. That's why reclaiming your identity is one of the most important steps you can take. Because when someone exits your life, the worst thing you can do is let the version of you that existed with them exit as well. Think about it. Before he came along, you were already a complete person. You had your quirks, your passions, your goals, your individuality. Maybe you were playful and spontaneous. Maybe you loved traveling or writing or trying new things. Then, somewhere along the way, parts of you got pushed aside, not always because he asked you to, but because you started bending to fit the relationship. You went where he wanted to go, did what he wanted to do, thought about how he saw you more than how you saw yourself. It's not unusual. Many people do this in relationships, but it comes at a cost. When the relationship ends, you're left with an identity gap. The work now is to fill that gap not with him, but with you. Reclaiming your identity means asking yourself, who was I before him, and who do I want to be after him? It's not about going backward, it's about reconnecting to your roots while allowing yourself to grow into something even stronger. Maybe you used to spend hours with friends, but drifted away because the relationship consumed your time. Call them back, rebuild those connections. Maybe you had hobbies or passions that took a backseat while you focused on him. Dust them off, dive back in. Maybe you always wanted to try something new, but never did because he wasn't interested. Do it now for no other reason than because you want to. The beauty of reclaiming your identity is that it reminds you that you are not defined by being someone's partner. You are defined by being yourself. And when you pour into that version of you, the one who doesn't need validation, the one who creates her own joy, you feel a power that no relationship can take away. This isn't just healing, it's transformation. It's turning the loss of him into the gain of you. But here's something important. Reclaiming your identity isn't just about activities, it's also about mindset. It's about refusing to see yourself through his lens. If he made you feel not enough, or too much, or somehow inadequate, it's time to throw away that reflection. His opinion was never the truth of you. You get to decide who you are, and the only opinion that really matters is your own. Start defining yourself on your terms, not his. Write down the qualities you love about yourself. Celebrate the things you're proud of. Own the things you've survived. Build a self-image that doesn't crumble just because someone couldn't see your worth. Reclaiming your identity also means standing tall in your independence. You don't need someone else to complete you, because you were never incomplete. Relationships can add to your life, but they should never become your life. When you make yourself the center of your own world again, you stop orbiting around people who don't value you. You stop begging for scraps of attention because you're already feeding yourself with love, attention, and purpose. And the magic is this: when you reclaim your identity, you stop obsessing over him. You don't have time to wonder what he's doing or who he's with, because you're too busy living as you. He becomes less significant with every step you take back toward yourself, and eventually you'll look back and realize he wasn't the thing that made you feel alive. You were. He was never the source of your identity, only a detour from it. The real you was there all along, waiting for you to come back. One of the reasons people stay stuck after a breakup is because their environment is still a shrine to the person they're trying to forget. You say you've moved on, but his number is still in your phone. You say you're done, but his hoodie is still folded in your drawer. You say he doesn't matter anymore, but you still scroll through his photos late at night. These reminders might feel harmless in the moment, but they're keeping you tied to him in ways you don't even realize. Every picture, every text thread, every little belonging is like a string pulling you back into a story that should already be over. That's why detoxing your environment is such a powerful step. When you remove the physical and digital reminders, you create space, not just in your surroundings, but in your mind. It starts with being brutally honest about what you've kept. Walk through your space and notice what still connects you to him. Maybe it's something obvious, like gifts he gave you, or less obvious, like songs on your playlist that still trigger memories. Maybe it's the places you still visit because they were your spots. Every one of these things is a hook. They might seem small, but together they keep you emotionally invested in someone who's no longer invested in you. The detox isn't about erasing your past, it's about reclaiming your present. By clearing those hooks, you send yourself a message: this chapter is closed. The digital detox is just as important. Keeping his number, even if you don't use it, is a quiet invitation for relapse. It leaves the door cracked open. Delete it, archive or delete the messages, remove him from your social media. Block if you have to. Some people resist this step because they think it's too extreme. But ask yourself this: is holding on to access helping you heal or keeping you stuck? Healing requires boundaries, and in the digital age, boundaries often mean deleting access points that trigger old emotions. You're not being petty, you're being protective of your peace. Detoxing also means curating what surrounds you moving forward. Replace the old reminders with things that bring you joy. Redecorate your space if you need to. Create playlists that empower you instead of pulling you back. Fill your feed with people and content that inspire growth, not comparison. Your environment has the power to either weigh you down with the past or lift you into your future. Make it work for you, not against you. And then there's the emotional detox. Maybe you've been holding onto old letters, journals, or conversations because part of you feels like letting them go means letting go of him forever. But isn't that the point? Letting go doesn't mean those memories never mattered. It means they no longer control you. Keep the lessons, but release the artifacts. Burn the letters if you have to. Donate the gifts. The symbolic act of removing these things sends a powerful signal to your subconscious. You're no longer available for this story. You're ready for a new one. The truth is, your environment reflects your choices. If you choose to surround yourself with reminders of him, you're choosing to keep the wound open. But when you choose to detox, you're choosing healing. You're choosing to prioritize your future over your nostalgia. And the amazing thing is, once you remove those triggers, you'll notice how much lighter you feel. You'll breathe easier in your own space. You'll stop stumbling into emotional landmines. You'll begin to live without constant reminders that keep you stuck in yesterday. Detoxing your environment isn't about revenge or bitterness. It's about self-respect. It's about saying, I deserve to walk into a room that feels like mine, not ours. I deserve to scroll through my phone without being haunted. I deserve to create a space that feels like freedom, not chains. And the moment you clear that space, you realize how much power you actually have. You're not powerless to memories. You can choose what stays in your life. And when you choose carefully, he slowly fades into the background until it feels like he was never really there. Obsession after a breakup doesn't look like obsession at first. It looks like checking his social media just once. It looks like rereading an old text thread when you can't sleep. It looks like replaying the last conversation over and over in your head, trying to decode it for meaning. Each time you tell yourself it's harmless, but in reality, you're feeding the very thing you're trying to escape. Obsession grows the more you give it attention, and the only way to break free is to starve it. If you keep feeding it, it won't die, it will control you. But the moment you stop giving it energy, it begins to weaken. The mind is tricky because it convinces you that you need those little fixes. You think if you just check one more photo, you'll finally feel closure. If you replay one more memory, you'll finally understand what went wrong. But closure doesn't come from obsession, it comes from acceptance. Every time you go back to him, even in your head, you're reinforcing the belief that he still matters more than your peace. Starving the obsession means deciding that your peace is worth more than your curiosity. This is where discipline comes in. It's not enough to say, "I won't think about him." You need to actively redirect yourself when the urge comes, because it will. You can't just sit there and hope it passes. You need to interrupt the pattern. Instead of checking his page, go for a walk. Instead of rereading old messages, write down new goals. Instead of replaying the past, fill your mind with something that moves you forward. Obsession is a cycle, and cycles are broken when you refuse to give them fuel. One of the hardest parts of starving obsession is the withdrawal. Just like breaking any addictive habit, the beginning feels uncomfortable. You'll feel restless, you'll crave the hit of information, the tiny dopamine spike of knowing what he's up to. But remember this, every time you resist, you're building strength. Every moment you choose not to feed the obsession, you're rewiring your brain to find peace in something else. Over time, the cravings lessen. What once felt unbearable becomes irrelevant. Starving obsession also means being ruthless about boundaries. If you know you can't control yourself on his social media, block him. If mutual friends keep updating you about his life, ask them to stop. If you keep slipping back into old conversations in your head, remind yourself out loud, "This is not helping me." Boundaries are not about being cold or petty, they're about survival. They're about choosing your healing over your habits. What's liberating is realizing that obsession isn't love, it's attachment. It's your brain trying to cling to something familiar, even if that thing hurt you. Once you understand that, it becomes easier to release it. You're not letting go of love, you're letting go of addiction. And when you starve it, you create room for something healthier to grow. That space is where clarity lives, where self-love deepens, where new experiences can finally enter. The truth is, he's not haunting you, you're keeping him alive in your mind, but you have the power to stop. You don't have to keep revisiting his ghost, you can starve the obsession until it has no choice but to fade. And when it does, you'll wonder why you ever gave it so much power in the first place. You'll see clearly that every time you chose not to feed it, you chose yourself. And that choice, repeated enough times, is how you truly forget him. Not suddenly, not all at once, but slowly, consistently, until he no longer matters. When someone leaves your life, they often leave behind a shadow. It lingers in the empty spaces of your day, in the silence where their voice used to be, in the moments when you instinctively reach for them and realize they're gone. That shadow can feel overwhelming, like it follows you everywhere, whispering reminders of what you lost. But here's the truth, shadows only exist when there's no light. The moment you start filling your life with your own light, the shadow begins to fade. Forgetting him isn't about erasing the shadow, it's about replacing it with something brighter, something that belongs entirely to you. His shadow represents the space he used to occupy. Maybe it's the time you spent texting, the weekends you spent together, the energy you poured into worrying about him. When he's gone, that space doesn't vanish, it's still there, waiting to be filled. The mistake many people make is leaving it empty. They try to move on without replacing what was lost, and in that emptiness, the shadow of him grows stronger. That's why you have to be intentional about filling the void with light. Your light, what does this mean in practice? It means investing in yourself in ways you may have neglected while he was in your life. Maybe you put aside hobbies or passions because you were too focused on the relationship. Pick them up again. Maybe you sidelined your friendships because he became the center of your world. Reconnect with those people who truly love and value you. Maybe you always wanted to try something new but didn't because it wasn't your thing. Together. Do it now. These aren't just distractions, they are pathways back to your own identity. They're reminders that your joy doesn't depend on him, it depends on you. Replacing his shadow with your light also means shifting your focus from what you lost to what you're gaining. Every moment you spend building yourself is proof that his absence isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new one. Start small if you need to. Create routines that center you, morning rituals that energize you, evening practices that calm you, daily habits that remind you of your strength. Over time, these little sparks add up to a glow that no shadow can survive in. It's also about redefining the way you see yourself. His shadow often carries the weight of his judgment, his rejection, his indifference. If you're not careful, you'll let that shadow shape how you see yourself. But when you shine your own light, you realize his opinion was never the truth. It was just one person's perspective. You can choose to define yourself differently, as capable, as lovable, as worthy, as powerful. And once you embrace that, his shadow becomes meaningless. There's something else powerful about light. It spreads. When you fill yourself with it, it doesn't just erase his shadow for you. It impacts the people around you. Your energy changes. You walk differently, speak differently, live differently. People notice the glow that comes from a woman who chose herself. And that glow becomes magnetic, not because you're trying to replace him with someone else, but because you're radiating the kind of energy that naturally draws better people and opportunities into your life. Here's the thing, his shadow will always try to creep in if you leave the space unclaimed. But when you deliberately pour your energy into yourself, into your passions, your growth, your joy, the shadow has nowhere left to live. It's not about pretending he never existed, it's about making his presence irrelevant. And when your life is overflowing with your own light, you'll look back and realize that his shadow was only as strong as the space you gave it. Once you chose to fill that space with yourself, it disappeared. This is the moment you understand that forgetting him isn't just about absence. It's about replacement. You're not losing, you're gaining. You're not empty, you're full. His shadow doesn't define you anymore because your light outshines it in every way. Closure is not something he gives you, it's something you decide for yourself. Too often, people wait for an apology, an explanation, or a perfect goodbye that never comes. They hold on to the hope that one day he'll finally say the right thing, admit his mistakes, or validate the pain he caused. But waiting for that is like waiting for a storm to turn around and apologize for raining. It doesn't happen. Closure isn't about him. It's about you choosing to take the actions that end the story in your mind, no matter how he left things. When you choose closure through action, you stop waiting and start moving. It begins with a conscious decision. I will not let this chapter keep writing itself without my permission. That decision then has to be backed up by choices that reinforce it. Deleting his number, unfollowing him, putting away old pictures, even changing routines that were tied to him. These are not petty moves, they're powerful rituals. Each step is a way of sending a message to your heart and mind, we're done here, and the more consistent you are, the faster your emotions catch up to the truth. Think about it. How often do people torture themselves by keeping the door cracked open? They leave reminders of him everywhere, they check his social media, they keep items that belong to him, they replay old conversations. And in doing so, they keep reopening wounds that could have been healing. Closure isn't found in overanalyzing the past. It's found in creating distance in the present. When you take deliberate steps to stop feeding the connection, the bond weakens until it no longer holds any power over you. It's also important to recognize that closure isn't a single moment. It's a series of moments where you choose yourself over him. It's when you resist the urge to text him late at night, It's when you stop stalking his updates to see who he's with. It's when you choose to spend your energy building your own life instead of obsessing about his. Each of these decisions becomes a brick in the wall that separates your past from your future. Eventually, that wall is strong enough that his presence can't seep back in. Closure through action also shifts your mindset from victim to creator. Instead of saying, "He broke me," you start saying, "I rebuilt myself." Instead of "He left me with no answers," it becomes, "I chose to stop needing answers." That shift is everything because it takes back the power you unknowingly handed him. He doesn't get to dictate when or how you move on. You do. And the moment you act on that truth, the healing accelerates. Another thing about action is that it builds momentum. At first, it may feel painful to block him, to throw out the mementos, to stop checking his life. It may feel like a loss. But over time, the emptiness those actions create turns into space. Space for new memories, new energy, new people, and new joy. By choosing closure through action, you're not just cutting ties with him. You're opening the door to everything that comes after him. And here's the most powerful part. When you finally commit to this path, you don't just move on, you transform. You prove to yourself that you don't need anyone else to give you peace of mind. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need the perfect ending. You can write your own ending right here, right now, by deciding that the story is over and acting like it is. That's where true strength lies. So don't wait for closure. Create it. Don't hope for it, choose it. Because the moment you act in alignment with the truth that he no longer belongs in your life, you'll find that closure was never something outside of you. It was always a choice waiting for you to make. And once you do, the weight lifts, the fog clears, and the path forward becomes brighter than you imagined. At the end of the day, deleting him isn't about bitterness, revenge, or pretending the relationship never happened. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about saying, "You no longer have a seat at my table because my energy, my time, and my love are too valuable to waste on someone who didn't value them." Every step you take, cutting the illusion of attachment, breaking the cycle of replaying memories, letting go of emotional dependence, reclaiming your voice, replacing his shadow with your light, and choosing closure through action is a step back into your own power. You're not erasing your past. You're simply refusing to let it define your future. You're choosing to live fully, to love yourself enough to close the chapter, and to write new ones where you are the center, not the supporting role in someone else's story. When you delete him like he was never part of you, you're not losing, you're winning. Because what you're really deleting is the version of yourself that settled for less. And what you're creating is the version that finally knows she deserves more. This is not about forgetting, it's about freeing. And the moment you choose freedom, you'll realize the real gift wasn't what he gave you when he was in your life. It's what you gave yourself when you finally let him go.